Hey, friends, welcome back to Reasoned Reality. I'm excited about this conversation because I have had the pleasure of talking to our guest a few times, and she quickly became one of my favorite people that's out there doing the work. So today's guest is Malynda Hale. She's a content creator, actress, singer, storyteller based in Los Angeles, who uses her platform to talk about activism, justice, and human rights in, I feel like, very meaningful ways. And if you didn't know this, she's also starred in multiple films, directed her own work, and uses that storytelling to really push them in conversations forward. She's been on CNN, ABC News Live, Roland Martin Unfiltered, NPR. I literally could go on and on. You've been featured in The Daily Beast and Blavity. You were named one of Wired's top influencers shaping the 2024 election. You are all over the place. And then you're the founder of... Oh, I'm not done. I'm not done. You are the founder of JMV Entertainment, the creator of the Black Voices Heard Project, and the executive director of the New Evangelicals. You're also a mom and a wife and all the other things. So, wow.
It sounds like I need a nap. I hate when people read my bio because I'm like, I sound crazy. I sound
like you do
so unfocused. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I'm so passionate about so many things, and I don't know how to sit still. And I just, I do actually, as cliche as it sounds, want to make a huge impact in the world. So I'm just, I'm always doing something. And I'm always big about that. Yeah.
I feel that deeply. Like, I know for me personally, and this has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but like growing up in that very evangelical world that I grew up in, I can remember people telling me all through my childhood that God was going to do big things. God was going to do big things through you and blah, blah, blah. He's got big plans. So I just always waited for those big plans and nothing ever happened. So like, I feel that inner drive though.
Yeah.
And like, right now is a time where people who look like me and come from my places are saying really shitty things.
Yeah.
So I get the opportunity to say unshitty things.
Which I love.
Yes. But I feel that deeply. Like, can't sit still.
Yeah.
Can't sit on the sidelines.
Can't. There's too much to do. And in different ways. I mean, I really didn't do like content creation and activism for a very long time. I was very focused on music and acting. But even in that medium, I was very selective on the things that I did because I wanted it to matter. And I didn't want to just be like another voice or another face or whatever. I'm very particular about the projects that I do because I want to take part in something that has a message, or is going to get people to think, or has really deep, meaningful lyrics. So I've always kind of been like an activist at heart, but I've gotten more into that lane in the last decade for obvious reasons.
Well, let me ask you a question. So
Sure.
I wanted this one to kind of just be as organic as possible. You and I have talked enough times. And you've actually posted about this, I think, just kind of like that exhaustion that a lot of us are feeling currently.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you handle that exhaustion that is unique to the exhaustion that I feel.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, as somebody who's moving through this world as a leader, an activist, and a Black woman, how you handle this stuff, this exhaustion that's landing on your body in different ways than it does mine.
Yeah. I always describe myself as a high capacity person, honestly. And I feel like I can take on a lot, but I also know when I have to take a step back. And so everything that's been happening, I've actually been able to handle it and process it and hold space for other people, just because I feel like that's the heart that I have and that's how God made me. But there have been a few moments that I've needed to step back that really affected me deeper. There was a specific situation, for example, I think this was last year, when the woman called that 5-year-old child the N-word and raised like almost $1 million. I had to take a break from social media from that because it's not that I'm naive, but it's that it's hard for me to reconcile with the fact that there are people out there like that and that people will actively support it. And it hurts to see because I'm immediately transported back to 5-year-old me. And I even just posted the other day, like, I remember the first incident of racism I had. I remember the first time I was called the N-word. I remember all of these things growing up, and it stays with you. And it's a different form of bullying because if you're bullied for, people call you fat or you have glasses or whatever, those are things that you can actually change as you get older. The thing that I was bullied about is the thing that I'm with for the rest of my life, right? And so something like that, when I see that happens to a 5-year-old kid, all I think about is the internalized trauma that he's going to have to live with now for experiencing that, because I've had to live with that. And so I'm already getting emotional thinking about this because those are the type of situations that I see that I have to take a step back and I can't handle it. But like Trump, all that other stuff, I'm like, ugh, I can talk about that forever because, oh my gosh, like that doesn't really affect me as much. But it's those moments specifically when it includes a child. It just, as a mom, but also my past experience, those are the things that are really hard for me to deal with. So that's when I know I have to take a break. But I am, like I said, I'm a pretty high capacity person. So I feel like I can handle a lot of this and not get too exhausted, but I get exhausted from those situations. Yeah.
I feel that. At the time of this recording, sorry, I was like adjusting something.
No, you're
At the
fine.
time of this recording, there's some videos that came out and a picture came out of a couple of, like, one was a 5-year-old boy.
Yeah.
With ice. And then the video that I'm referencing is a mom was recording it and she's in the garage and she's begging them because they're scaring her kids. And then you can hear the kids in the background.
Yeah.
And I literally had, before this, I had a meeting with somebody here locally. She's a grief counselor, and I'm going to talk to her soon because, she's just really wise. But, I was just telling her that I had to set it down yesterday. I had to turn it all off. When I saw that, all I saw was my little guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a little guy anymore. He's 16, almost 17. But he was little like that one time, and he was just so frail and little, and he was so anxious, and he had panic attacks, and all I could see is my little guy, and I would not have been able to get to him. And I would like, those people that are being arrested and stuff, kudos for being as strong as you are. I think you would just have to straight up murder me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I tell that to my husband all the time. I'm like, I would be ended up in jail because I just, and that's the thing that frustrates me, because for the people that are cheering this on, how do you not see your children in that? Like, children are innocent. They don't do anything. They don't know anything. They're on the receiving end of this, and you're okay with it. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's what bothers me. Cause I have a hard time reconciling with the fact that there are humans out there that agree with this. It breaks my heart. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I can't even even as an actor, I don't even know how I would get to that level of hate and depravity, right? Like, just to be able to think oh yeah, well, they're illegal. I don't care if they're 5. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around that mindset. It just,
it's interesting you say that. When you said that, something popped up into my mind. Did you ever see the interview? And I can't think of his name, but he's the guy that played in Inglourious Bastards. He played the main Nazi character.
Oh, Christoph.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in an interview, he talked about, because somebody asked him, well, how did you embody so much evil? And he's like, what are you talking about? He wasn't evil. And the whole point was nobody thinks they're evil. Yeah. And so he played it like, I'm not evil. I'm just doing whatever. And that's what you talking about. And I'm curious. I would be curious. That guy, what's his name? Bovin, is that how you pronounce his last name?
I think so.
The ice guy that's walking around in Nazi cosplay right now.
Yeah.
And I would be curious to what his thought is towards that.
That's fascinating. Now I'm going into art from an acting perspective to humanize what we in society view as somebody evil in order to play it. Now I'm like, oh, do I have to take that into consideration? But I would never take those roles. That's just me. But that's interesting. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, but I think that that's probably what it is. They're figuring out how to humanize evil to justify it. Oof. Just getting deeper than I thought.
Yeah, and then, yeah, because you got to wonder, a guy that was walking around like that, doing the things that he's doing. I mean, I've never done that. Like, I've never done anything remotely close to that. I've been a jerk. I've been an ass. I feel like I'd recognize that. Like, I can recognize when I'm being an ass. My wife is usually pretty quick to point it out. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, you got me.
Yeah. Wow.
The thought process, I can't, like you said, I can't.
That's crazy. That must be, I'm not justifying it, but that must be what these ICE agents are thinking, that they're not evil, that they're just doing what they're supposed to do, which is wild to me.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, let's jump into something. I'm going to jump into something that's hot button topic right now, and I want to get your take on it.
All right.
The protests in the church building, interrupting the service for the protest.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen some hot takes out there. I have provided my own. I try not to do hot takes. Brian Recker posted a good video I thought was really well done. I thought I liked his take on it. What are your thoughts about not only what happened, but is this a precedent that's been set now? Is this something that's going to, because I'm in a progressive church, right?
Sure.
So does the big mega church Baptist church that's down the road? I mean, we recently held, and we're having to, here in Florida, we have to call it a variety show, where people dress up in different costumes and they perform to music. And it was so much fun. Time did not drag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess they could have done the same.
Here's the thing.
Different.
Here's the thing. No one was hurt, right?
Right.
No one was attacked. No, there was no riots or brutality. They came in. They said, one of your pastors is an ICE agent. We're calling him out. We're here to protest the church. How is that any different from the First Amendment rights that these people are always preaching about? Literally preaching about. It's like, we have our First Amendment rights, because they only use their First Amendment rights to be awful and racist. Let's just make sure we're clear about that, right? It's never for like anything productive. So no, I don't have a problem with it. I think we're at that point, sadly. You know what I mean? We're at that point, especially because, and I also posted about this the other day, like, you want to act like you're a Christian nation, but you just want the branding of Christian nation and none of the responsibility of actually being Christians. And so to know that a lead pastor at a church is also the field agent for ICE, that's crazy to me. That's actually crazy. The fact that you would actively take that role and then go lead people to Jesus, quote unquote, while actively harming families in your area.
It would be like in Jesus, if we could find a similar story in the gospel, it would be like a synagogue leader is working for the Romans. He's a Roman soldier.
Right.
It would be the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. I also find it interesting that Don Lemon is getting most of the pushback on this when he was just a journalist that is just.
I'm not even sure. Did he even go in? Did he go in?
He did go in, but just with his mic and camera to be like, hey, like, what do you think about what's happening? That's what a journalist does. And it's been deeply upsetting to see how much pushback he's getting when all he was doing was documenting.
I think we know why he's been targeted.
I 1000% know.
Yeah.
But it's still upsetting to me.
Oh, for sure.
Because, like, I don't know. I just feel like if it were flipped, it would be completely fine if Jesse Waters went to some, like, a Black Lives Matter protest or something. And I don't know. I can't really give a good example, give counter example, but we know that there would be hypocrisy if it were flipped. Yeah.
I feel like, I feel like a lot of the outrage that comes from that MAGA right is always very performative, very selective.
Sure.
Because if that's the case, if you're really upset about somebody coming in and interrupting church, then where was the outrage when it was ICE?
Yeah, they didn't care about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I guess it was still ICE agents, harming pastors, like
Yeah.
literally hurting pastors,
Yeah.
shooting them in the head and
Yeah.
with the non-lethal rounds and stuff. Like where was the outrage there?
It's not there. I mean, they want to talk about, think it's fine that Renee Good was killed, but then Ashley Babbitt gets $5 million for restitution, even though she was clearly in the wrong, right? They want to talk about Charlie Kirk. They want to talk about all these other people and they want to talk about, for example, well, how do you not care that these illegals are coming in and killing people? When is enough enough? But they don't care about the school shootings that are happening and that the number one cause of childhood death is guns, right? So I'm just confused. I'm not confused, but I'm confused on where their morality lies and what actually matters to them. They say they care about kids, but they don't. Nothing that they've supported has been helpful for children, taking away school lunch, taking away childhood cancer research, not making healthcare premiums go sky. You voted for all of this, right? You're harming children in the schools. They're going to the schools, ICE agents, and picking them up and luring kids out of their house to get their parents, using them as bait. It's like, but you're pro-life? You care about children? I don't get it. I don't get it. So yeah, there's a lot of contradictions in their stances, but none of it is based on Jesus. So I would rather them just stand 10 toes down about the ideology that they have and stop trying to put his face on it.
That'll preach. That might be a clip. I'm just saying. Well, let me ask you this. Like, we've talked about this before, but, you head up the New Evangelicals now, and that space has been so helpful for so many people, including my wife and I. When Tim started that, we were smack dab in the middle of the same things as a pastor, just not recognizing this entity called the church.
Yeah.
And it has been such a healing place for so many people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that has always been, like, Tim did a good job, you do a good job of it, is the fact that in your conversations or anything that you all do, you're not going to participate in dehumanization.
Sure.
Even if, whatever they do, it's not going to determine what we do.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I was just thinking about that as we were talking, because even in this conversation, it falls down to us versus them. And I try not to be that binary.
Yeah.
It's hard not to, because there is a line in the sand right now. And it's almost impossible to say, okay, if you're on this side of that line, then you could still be good or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you walk that line of us versus them, of maybe not even dehumanization, but I guess that line of us versus them. How do we bridge the gap? How do we move forward if that dividing line is so clear right now? Do we just not worry about it? Like it just is, and we have to learn to operate, and those that find their way out, we welcome them.
Oh man, I feel like this could be the whole rest of the podcast. Because this is, I go back and forth, and I'm not going to lie. I go back and forth. I'm really big on bridge building and having conversations with people that I don't agree with. But there are some views that are so egregious that, it's like, how do you find a common ground with this? How do you reach across the aisle? It's very difficult. And from a personal standpoint, my family's history in this country comes from an us versus them. We were automatically othered. I was othered from birth, right? And so I'm put into a situation where my reaching across the aisle could easily be viewed from my community, I will say, as trying to assimilate or please. And it's not that, but I am just trying to get people to see me as human. But why do I have to fight so hard to get you to see me as a human? Why does my blackness have to earn your empathy? Why don't I just have it being a human being on this earth that's sharing this space with you, that's voting for things, that's trying, And so it's hard because I don't want to dehumanize people. I don't want to go down that route because then you become like them and then it's pointless. You
Right.
know what I mean? Then you're just canceling each other out. And I fully believe in Michelle Obama's when they go low, you go high. Now there are some people have joked like when they go low, I'm going to hell. Right. And I'm like, I'm not going to go that, but I don't blame you for feeling that way. I don't. It's difficult. It really is because aside from even the political standpoint, and again, this is just from my own personal experience and being a Black woman it is a factor in all of this, right? That's something that I'm always fighting for. And then I have to add just being a human, because my family knew I was going to be Black before they knew I was going to be a girl, right? So then I'm a Black woman, and then I'm a Black liberal, progressive Christian woman. There's all these other labels that I'm like also fighting with, trying to get these people to understand our views. What I will say is that, and this is why I do think voting is very important, even though I get why people are like, what's the point? Please vote. But I will always vote to make sure everybody has rights, even if they don't feel that way about me. And that's what I can go to bed at night feeling good about. Like, they hate me. They think I don't deserve this, but I think that you deserve to have healthcare. I think that you deserve to have safety. I think that your child deserves to go to school and not worry about getting shot. You may not feel that way about me, but I feel that way about you, and I'm fine with that. So it's really for me more of a, what are the values that are leading me on a daily basis, even if I do want to cuss somebody out on the internet. At the end of the day, I look at the work that I'm doing, and I know that the work I'm doing will benefit them positively, even though whatever it is they're doing won't positively benefit me. I know it's kind of like a long roundabout answer, but that's really just kind of how I try to view it. And I can sleep at night knowing that I'm on the right side of this. And I can really emphatically say that I know I'm on the right side of this because nothing that I am actively choosing to support would harm anybody.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got thoughts.
We all have thoughts.
Yeah. As you were talking, this past Sunday, the church that I'm at, we're doing our theme for the year is the beloved community. And so reading, different books and, kind of going through some things collectively, especially as a majority white church, right? And so the series that we're going through is called The Beloved Community. And so like week 1 was like naming the things. Week 2, which is this Sunday, is going to be like dismantling the things. And then week 3 is like, but you can't stop there. Like now it's time to build, right? So it's like, that's just the progression of it. But one of the things that like while I was writing, and we were talking about this idea of like just this systemic racism that's woven into American culture, right?
Sure.
And I was thinking about my childhood or whatever. Like my parents they never said anything. Like I can't remember them ever saying anything. And then especially when they started doing their work in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. But I can remember, and I told my church this Sunday or last Sunday was that I don't ever remember thinking about race until I hit middle school, and I was a huge basketball nerd. Loved Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Michael Jordan because I was a Lakers fan.
I get it.
I was a Lakers fan, and Jordan. Oh God, I hated them so much.
You have your loyalties. I get it.
Right. But the first time I recognized, looking back, it was racism. Couldn't tell you. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that then when I was a kid. Was in 1990, and I'm dating myself here. 1990. Jerry Tarkanian was a basketball coach. He coached for UNLV, the Runnin' Rebels, and they had an all-black team, and they were dominant. They were so good. Yeah. I mean, they were just running everybody, and they were just unabashed about it, right? Like just unapologetic. We're going to run you off the court. Tough. Stop us. That year in the tournament, the Duke Blue Devils beat them. And it's Coach K, which he's a fantastic leader anyway, but it's this all white bread team. Christian Leitner, Bobby Hurley, I could still name them. Every now and then they would have a black player, like Grant Hill was on the team, whatever. And I didn't recognize at the time, but Duke instantly became my favorite team. And I followed them for years. The second time was when Michigan's Fab Five showed up. I don't know I don't know how much older I am than you, but they were the same way. They were the ones that introduced like the baggy shorts on the court. That's when the uniform started changing.
Okay.
And I told my church, like, there was just this internal, I was just uncomfortable internally, and I couldn't explain why. Now I can explain why, because it was just the waters I swam in. The town I grew up in was overwhelmingly white and conservative, and there were just like little signals all the time. And it just gets embedded so deeply that I didn't even recognize, I don't like that basketball team because they're black. They're unapologetically black. That makes me uncomfortable. They're stepping outside the bounds of what I think, should be acceptable.
Sure.
And it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to like that team. I'm just going to like that other team over there that just happens to be all white.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I told them it's just everywhere. And I don't mean that. I'm not like, I can hear people like, it's all about race. I understand that. And at the same time, it's like, but it is.
A lot. Yeah. A lot of things are, unfortunately.
Because that's what our country was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was built on.
Yeah.
Everything is.
Yeah. And it's okay this is the thing that a lot of people in the Black community, specifically like thought leaders and that are trying to explain, is that, look, we don't want to talk about race. We're so tired of talking about race, but it's because there's such what is the word I'm looking for? They're so adverse to wanting to talk about race that they just think you can sweep it under the rug and ignore it, and then everything will be fine. It's like nothing works that way. Like if you find out you have cancer, you don't ignore it and it goes away. Like you have to treat it. You have to take care of it. You have to try to cure it, heal it, whatever the case is, right? That's what racism is. It is a cancer in this country, and we have to try to fix it. But you can't fix something if you don't acknowledge that it's there and then make the steps to fix it, right? I saw this comedian that was like, I really need racism to be over because I'm tired of supporting Black things that I don't like. I deeply resonated with that because you feel like you have to. But all jokes aside, I mean, really, we don't want to talk about race. And we don't make everything about race, but we have to point it out to you, not you, but you know what I mean? We have to point it out to you so that you understand where we're coming from and what we're asking for. And it's just like, no, we don't want to talk about it. It's over. Racism was cured in the civil rights movement, which now they're like saying because of Charlie Kirk. Like, so yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I don't know where we go from here and how we fix things. There's a lot because, now they're trying to take us back to 1950s and
I know it. I told my people, so I have learned there are a handful of Black preachers that I watch, that I listen to, and there are things that they do that I was just like, oh, that's really helpful, right? So, like boiling something down to like a really memorable kind of takeaway, repeated over and over, so that thing sticks. So you may not remember anything I say except for that one sentence, but that one sentence is the thing that you need to remember, right?
Yeah.
And so, I just kind of adopted that into what I do because I find it so helpful. And so like this, for this series, one of the things that I said, and again, it's a majority white, and you asked how we fix this. It's a majority white church. And for me personally, every time I talk about this, I get pushback, white guilt this, or blah, blah, blah. Shut up. It's such a tired thing. So I told everybody that's there, right, that watches or listens, it may not be your fault. Like, we didn't build these systems.
Sure.
But it is my responsibility to help dismantle them.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if and not to make it this binary, but if white people, white Christians could understand that
Yeah.
and repent from the fact that we have benefited from systems that harm other people.
Mm-hmm. It's the acknowledgement of that so many don't even want to say, like, oh,
Right.
and they
It's
say, like,
not
oh, I
your
don't have
fault.
white privilege. I grew up poor. It's like, but you
I grew
being
up poor
poor,
too, so.
that has nothing to do with your
Yeah,
race.
it does not.
We're talking about race. Your being white has never kept you from achieving anything in this country. Black people have been told they can't even drink from a water fountain. You have never experienced that. Just acknowledge that. And that also, they don't want to admit that it's been a trajectory and that it's a domino effect. And they don't want to think that the situation that certain Black communities are still in today literally do derive from slavery. It's just, it's a domino effect. Everything affects everything fed into each other, right? And so if we can't even acknowledge that, then we can't make the steps to fix it. But it has to start with the acknowledgement, which so many don't want to do because they want to make it about them.
It's not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy. It's not easy to wake up one day and look and be like, oh, holy cow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just that realization is really difficult. I said this last week when I talked with Lisa Sharon Harper and Christian A. Smith, and I told them the same thing, was just like, it's been a few years now, but in my decolonizing work, I recognized the reason that I feel so comfortable in any space that I walk into. Like, I'll walk into a room and I can be the only white guy. I can be the only straight guy. And I'm just as comfortable super comfortable. And I always thought it was because I was a nice guy until I realized, and I am a nice guy, but
you are,
but until I realized the reason that I feel comfortable in any space is because when I walk into a room, that room is now mine. Nobody ever taught me that, but that's what was handed to me and had been reinforced my entire life as a straight white Christian man in the United States. Every room I walk into is mine. So why would I ever be uncomfortable in my room? You're in my room.
Yeah.
But that realization was one of those things of like, oh, okay, that may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility now
to fix. Yeah. It's that expectation of ownership for sure. For sure. The entitlement that you were born into, honestly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
People don't want to realize that.
So you do a majority of the work, especially for the new evangelicals, is that kind of deconstruction space. And you've talked about the fact that you grew up with a really healthy faith and didn't have to deconstruct, which was super helpful for me during like my darkest days. I had a friend who grew up in a healthy faith, Duke Divinity School, never was taught the same things, and so never really went through that. So he walked with me through that season. Super helpful. And I'm curious what you guys are seeing kind of from that, 30,000 foot view that the new evangelicals is throughout the country, of how that's playing out right now. Like, in 2016, we saw a massive wave, leave the church because of the cruelty.
Sure.
And I'm sure it's the same kind of thing. Are you all seeing, like, is it at a deeper level? I mean, is it more of like, I'm not just deconstructing these things. I'm deconstructing this that's coming off. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it is a thing, but I also am seeing a different level of reclamation, which I am really wanting to take part in because, first of all, I'm stubborn. And I think a lot of progressive Black Christians feel this way. It's like, we're not going to let them have it. We're just not going to let them have it, right? I have seen a lot of people that return to the faith but don't say that they're Christian. They're like, I'm a Christ follower. I'm still down with Jesus, but like, I want nothing to do with Christianity. Totally respect it. Then there's a mix of people that just don't want to have anything to do with any form of a faith practice or religion, which I also get. I think there was, I don't know the study specifically, but it was something that was like 42% of people that deconstruct, they find their way back to some sort of spiritual practice, but it's obviously not the same from what they left, but it's not necessarily like a label. Like, they feel spiritual, they still feel a connection to God, or they still believe in the teachings, but they don't really put a label on it. Which for me, again, at the end of the day, is like, whatever you believe, as long as you're not a crappy person, like, you do you, boo. But I think that's because that's what faith should be about, and a religious practice should be about, how it makes you a better person and what it leads you to do to be positive in the world. So I mean, from our perspective in the community space that we have, there are people that are very different journeys with their faith. Some have completely deconstructed, some are agnostic, some are atheists, but they still feel safe within the TNE community, which is what I want. I want anybody to feel comfortable and not feel also that the things that we're sharing and posting about are inaccessible to them or doesn't include them. I think looking at the faith from a more justice, a collective liberation stance is really, to me, more in line with Jesus, and that's what I grew up with. So that's really kind of the approach that TNE is taking now. But I don't fault anyone for questioning and for not even knowing if they want to go back. There was in the same study, I think it was like the Journal of Religion and Faith, but it said like people that deconstruct, it takes them like 3 to 5 years of going through like a search before they find anything to land on, right? But that makes so much sense to me because it isn't just oh, I don't agree with that. Okay, I'm going to go. It's a lot, right, that I've seen.
Oh, yeah.
And even for myself, like, again, I grew up with a very healthy faith, but then I went to a very conservative evangelical Christian school. I went for the music program. And the things that I was surrounded by, I was like, y'all are crazy. Like, how do you think this? Like, this is insane to me. And so leaving, I had even more of a deeper faith and understanding of the type of Christian that I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world. And there are also things that I started to say like, oh, well, maybe I don't necessarily believe that, but it was never from a harmful theology place. It was just from a, I don't know if that happened. I don't know if I believe this. I'm just going to follow what Jesus said and keep it simple and keep it moving, right? I don't, I think the Bible is beautiful. It's beautifully written. There's so many things in it, but for people to say that it's like, it's infallible because God's word doesn't change, I can't subscribe to that because we read the Bible, and I even just did a reel about this. We read the Bible from the culture that we're currently in, right? And so you cannot apply a lot of the things in the Bible to 2026. Like, come on, fam. Like, what are we doing? It's just not possible, right? But you interpret it through the culture that you're in and things change. And I mean, there's so many different translations of the Bible, which should be your first clue, but that's another conversation. So all that to say is that, you know, people have found a lot of different ways to be in line with their faith and following Jesus and being in tune with God. And again, at the end of the day, whatever leads you to be the best version of yourself, then go with that. Because that's, if you feel healthy, if you feel at peace, if you feel calm, if you feel no anxiety or stress, that's what you should be a part of. And that's what you should be believing in.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is the height, the absolute pinnacle of, I don't know if it's stupidity or arrogance. It might be a combination of the two. To think that, let's just say God is, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to assume that God is. And if God is, and I would argue that God is existence, right? Like he's not, like even to call God he or
is,
she.
yeah. It's whatever makes you comfortable.
God, God is, right?
Yeah.
God is existence. And if God, this creative force, spirit, whatever, created the cosmos, things which we're discovering that we can't understand why they exist because they don't follow the laws that we've got so far. And if God created all of that and holds that within God's existence, and we have decided as a species on this little tiny microscopic rock hurtling through space, an infinite space. Our galaxy alone is so large, it takes, 250,000 years for one rotation. That the God that holds that the most important thing about that God is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's very egotistical, isn't it? It's so egotistical. It's wild.
And
It's
I argue
wild.
this all the time with people when they talk about like, well, you got to accept Jesus. You got to accept Jesus. You got to accept what happened on the cross. Okay, let's assign spiritual value to the cross. We're going to assume that, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take it for granted that everybody does, but let's, for the sake of the argument, does. That something spiritual happened on the cross.
Sure.
I don't believe that it was substitutionary atonement. If anything, I subscribe to a healing atonement, scapegoat theory, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But you're telling me that the spiritual thing that happened on the cross, where all sin, all brokenness is forgiven, and that because of that, healing took place, right? And now our job is to learn to live into that healing. Kind of like the prodigal son. You come back to yourself and you go back to where you're supposed to be.
Sure.
So that's our job. And that force was so strong spiritually that it reconciled all of what we just said back to its creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
God reconciled all things. And that me saying a magic sentence either allows that to change me or stops that power.
It's wild. It's wild.
It is wild.
I know.
Right?
I know. It is. I mean, again, like I said, there were things that I went through. I'm like, I don't know if I believe this anymore. I went through that period. I don't know if that's a deconstruction period because, again, I didn't deconstruct a harmful theology because I didn't grow up with that. But there's so many things that I've broken down that I'm like, this ain't real, or this is not right, or no, well, how do people believe this? Like, what? And it's so fun. I don't know who said it, but someone's like, Christians will believe that, Jesus was born of a virgin, but they can't admit that racism exists. Like, it's like, it's crazy.
Well, yeah. Or that their God, the God is a Trinitarian God, 3 in 1, 1 in 3, but have problems with pronouns.
Right.
What?
That's a good one.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. And again, listen, I like I said, I don't fault people for whatever they believe as long as it doesn't make you a terrible person. And unfortunately, the version of Christianity that has taken over this country is a Christianity that doesn't show up in a way that one would make anybody want to be a part of it. like the way that Christianity presents itself is like, who would want to go to heaven with y'all if you think you're going to heaven, right? Like, none of you seem like fun at a party. So why would we want to be a part of that faith? But it's also has nothing to do with Jesus. Not a single thing. And it's so frustrating because I always think about if he were to come back, well, first of all, it'd be actually very terrifying. And I've talked to my husband about this. Do you think that would be terrifying if yes. I mean, it would be terrifying. But if he were to come back, there's no way that they would follow him. There's just no way. They'd crucify him again.
Yeah, he'd be woke.
1,000. He was woke. Yeah. He was the original social justice warrior. Like, he really was. And so I've always just been so confused because even in all the translations, his words have never changed.
Mm-hmm.
He was very clear. All of his words are very clear. The red letters are there. So I don't understand what these people are reading. I don't know what they're reading. I know they're clinging to Leviticus, hanging on to that for dear life.
Good Lord.
But good Lord. But all the other things that he said, they don't matter. You're a Christian.
It's funny you say that. I wrote a post the other day because we all knew it was Martin Luther King weekend. Monday was the holiday. Trump was the first president since Reagan to not even acknowledge the day.
Of course.
But he's not racist or anything though. But I made a post about of course these people are going to quote Dr. King while ignoring his life and legacy because they've always done it to Jesus. Like, they've been doing it to Jesus forever. So if I can read, and I was telling my friend that I was meeting with, we're got together, we're doing a citywide thing. But anyway, I told her, but Christians have been doing this for decades, where they reduce the story of Jesus to the death, burial, and resurrection. Because if I reduce it to the death, burial, resurrection, then my only responsibility in that is to accept that because that's what it means to be saved.
Yes.
Now I don't really have to worry about all these things because this is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I can do the same thing. Like the point was Dr. King was like, I can reduce it to I had a dream, which was great, but then ignore what he said about poverty, about militarism, about, all these other things. And we've been practicing it for years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy and it's low lift and little effort if you're able to do that. Because
very true.
You never hear them say America's a Christian nation, right? But what does that actually look like in practice? They've never laid it out. They've never explained what that means. What does that mean? Just claiming it? Yes, that's what it means to them. Just saying we are Christian. You don't have to do anything to be a Christian in their mind. You just, like you said, accept the death and the resurrection. That's it.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
It's related. It's a little off topic.
Okay.
So Reasoned Reality has an audience that's, slightly different than say the new Evangelicals, right? Just slightly, because I think T&E is a big enough tent that even if I landed, like I deconverted, I think people still feel comfortable within that space and knowing the work that it's doing. I think that's true. But Reasoned Reality also, there's the political side. We've got, its creator. They're agnostic, close to atheist, and so we have all these crazy discussions about different stuff, just like internally talking about things. And I'm curious how you feel it or how you see this. Do you see this? I just kind of come to some conclusions, and you mentioned it earlier. Like I'm down with Jesus. I think he was brilliant.
Yeah.
I think he was perhaps the most enlightened person that has ever walked the planet.
Yes.
I think that he was more in tune with human nature and divine nature, all of those things. But the religion that was built up around him afterwards, I got some issues with.
It's Paul. It's not Jesus.
and I came to this conclusion the other day. I love Jesus. I'm so tired of Christianity. I'm so tired of it.
Who is it?
I'm so tired of it dominating everything. Like every time we talk about something, then it comes up and I'm just like, dude, I'm a pastor. And like, I've been a pastor forever.
And you're like, and I'm over it.
Yeah. If I'm over it, I can't imagine what regular Joe Blow on the street feels like.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting because you see so much hate that Christians get, and even identifying as one, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I hate it too. I can't stand some of these people. But yeah, I don't know how it has taken over because I think that pluralism and multiculturalism are so beautiful. And again, I'm gonna keep saying this. See, this is the black thing that you were talking about, repeating the same thing over and over. Whatever you believe, as long as it doesn't make you a bad person, I don't care. So yeah, I am tired of Christianity showing up in every sector, mainly because the version that is showing up doesn't represent what Jesus actually told us to do. So again, I get the rebrand of like Christ followers and I follow Jesus, but I'm not a Christian. Totally get when people say that. I will still say I'm a Christian because I don't want them to have it. But yeah, I get it. It's everywhere. It's in your schools. It's in your politics. It's in coffee shops. Like, it's just like, come on. Yeah. Like, also the egotistical thing is, this is the thing that bothers me probably the most because, okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, okay?
Do it.
How I have always interpreted Jesus saying, I am the way, I am the life, you can only get to the Father through me, is that he was saying how he lives his life is the best way to be aligned with God. I don't think that he was saying like, I am the Father. Okay. I am, you know what I mean? Like, I am the only one. He wanted you to find the divine within yourself. And he was the example of how to live. He was a prophet. He, like you said, he was the most in tuned person to just humanity and existence. And so it is so egotistical for them to say that their religion is the only way to be in touch with God and be connected to God. I fully believe God created as many religions as possible because God, and I'm going to say he because that's just what I've always said and it's comfortable for me, but you can say she, they, whatever, I don't care. But I believe that all of these religions were created because he wanted people to find a pathway to him that was comfortable for them and worked for them. That's what free will is. That's what the beauty of living is and exploration. So I do think all roads lead back to the same place. Because even if you look at different religions, there's a lot of similarities, right? In the ideology, in how you're supposed to show up for humans, and every religion kind of does have a master teacher, and that's how I view Jesus, and just his message I aligned with the most, and I'll stay that way. But to think that in this world, as you say, and the way you put it with the galaxies and the universe, to think that this one faith, this one religion practice is the only right one is absolutely absurd to me. You are not
when they can't even agree with themselves.
When they can't even agree with themselves. You see how many versions of Christianity? You have Lutherans, you have Methodists, you have Baptists, you have Pentecostal. Like my God.
40,000 worldwide.
There are 40,000. See, I didn't even know it was that many.
And I make that argument too. Yeah. It's tough. And I say to people too, like, and every one of those groups will claim to be led by the same spirit.
Yeah.
And they're all being led to different truths.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how it works? Because of how it works, we got to rearrange some stuff. Yeah. Maybe that is how it works.
Yeah.
I would argue that. Have you read The Separation of Church and Hate by John Fugelsang?
I'm literally halfway through it.
Oh, that's so
it's
funny.
what I'm reading right this moment. I'm not even kidding. It's on my Instagram. Yeah.
He's such a good dude anyway.
He is. I've laughed out loud so many times, by the way.
Oh, I know.
It's so funny.
I really enjoy his humor.
I love it. Yeah.
Highly recommend it. But he talks about, like, it's not Christianity, it's fundamentalism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like in any system, fundamentalism has like these red markers, and it's always like controlling women's bodies, and it's like there's these things tick 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 tick. And I'm curious from your perspective, and I'm just kind of springing this on you.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about American Christianity that skews towards that fundamentalism so much? What do you think?
Oh gosh. I don't even know how to answer that. Huh. That I don't know. You did spring that on me. That I'm gonna have to sit with that. I don't know. I don't know what it is about. That's a really good question because it's really the root of what it is and what's driving this version of Christianity for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think historically America has always been about divide and conquer and control and pain and excusing it away as something that God wanted. I don't know. I'm sure there's historical ties to why they're obsessed, why their version of Christianity is so linked to fundamentalism. But I don't know. That's a great question. It's a really great question. Do you have thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I have some thoughts.
I want to hear yours. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it is rooted, again, not to just go all the way back to like, it's always race. I think some of it's rooted in I think a lot of it's rooted in racism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if as a white man, I am supreme,
mm-hmm.
and I am made in the image of God, then God must be supreme, like my God, my version of God.
Well, they made God in their image,
right,
which is why he looked like that.
God.
Yeah.
Right, and if I'm in step with my God, then the things that I'm doing are ordained by God, right? Like, and so I think it goes back to like, if you have this fundamentalist view, if you take scripture at its like, no, this is real, then God is okay with genocide. Then God is okay with human trafficking. God is okay with sexual assault. God is okay with all of these things in the name of like domination, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
The Israelites commit genocide because that little piece of land on this little tiny rock hurtling through space is yours, right? And so now we fight over these things. And so I think there's a lot I think there's a whole lot. We could
There's
spend
a
like,
whole, yeah,
I think there's a whole lot,
absolutely.
but I think at its core that, I mean, it's supremacy. I
Yes,
think it's all supremacist,
100%. It's so
whether it's
funny
white or
though.
Christian or whatever.
Totally. It's funny though, because as you're saying that, you're like, they made God in his image, and yada, yada. They understand representation better than anybody else. And I've always said this, because why else would they make Jesus white? It's because of
Mm.
that. They want to be represented. And so, because they're not going to worship a brown skinned Middle Eastern Jewish man. They're not going to do that. They're like, okay, well, let's just make him have blue eyes and blonde hair, and then we're good to go. They understand representation, and they don't want anybody else to be represented, because this is their land. This is their country. This is their system that they're benefiting from. So they turn Jesus into them in order to be able to be more aligned with him. They understand representation better than anybody else. They know what they're doing.
I've never thought of that.
Oh, that's a comfort topic for me
I've never,
often, actually.
I've never thought about it in those terms.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm gonna see if I can't find me an anthropologist. Because I would love to ask. Because while we were talking, I want to talk to somebody and ask them, what is it about white Europeans? Why did they feel the need to colonize the entire planet? What was the because if you look at like all of these people groups, a lot of indigenous people groups, they learned to live within the means, right?
Yes.
Like it was cooperation with nature. It was cooperate. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't war with each other and all of those things. That's always been a thing.
Yeah.
But what was it about like white Christians in the, whatever age that decided, no, we're going to take over the whole planet. We're going to subjugate everybody.
It's interesting, isn't
I've
it?
wondered that.
There's just, it's like this being born unsatisfied for some reason. Like you just can't do with what you have. And honestly, it is passed down, because you even look at like modern day. I was talking about this, they say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, go do these
that
things.
was awesome. Yeah.
And then you do, and then they burn it down. Like, because they don't want people they think that they have to be at the top. And if anybody passes them whatsoever, that's not allowed. That can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I just going back to just all of the colonization that has happened, it's like, where were you at in your life? What were you doing that made you think, I'm just going to go travel and see what other people got. And if they have something I want, I'm going to take it. It's such a wild mindset to just have. And I don't know. But there are people that still think that way. There are a lot of people that still think that way. There's a level of entitlement that's just outrageous.
Insane. Well, hey, let me ask you this, because I want to honor your time, and you have given us plenty of time. I could talk to you for another hour.
Oh my gosh, for sure, easily.
But I don't want to end on just like that. So I'm curious. Number one, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Number one. And then I think the last question I'll give you is what is and maybe it's the same question, but what is filling your cup? Like right now, like we talked about a little bit before we started recording, there's just so much crap and it's so heavy right now. So I guess it is the same question. Like what's filling your cup right now?
So there's two answers to this. One, I am focusing on still creating and doing like art outside of like the social media space. So I'm working on some documentaries, some audio stories, getting ready to do another film, which I'm really excited about. So being able to still be creative in that way is so fulfilling to me. I'm also, this is the mom, wife, woman in me. I'm redoing the house because I'm not happy if my house looks like somebody lives in it. And I keep saying to my family, things are going to change around here. And I keep like redoing every room. And my husband was like, you have to stop. I'm like, no,
Babe,
we need new curtains. Yeah. It's like, we need a new TV stand. I need a plant here. So I've been kind of interior designing our house because I want it to look like a catalog, and it's just not going to happen because I have a 5-year-old and a 19-month-old. And every time I clean it, I turn around and then it's just a mess again. But I'm going to try. So actually doing that has been pretty fulfilling to me. I joke that it's my trad wife side.
That's so funny. I also love, can I just be really honest? I also love the fact that that's such a simple answer. There's like nothing like, deep or meaningful.
Oh, no, it's nothing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but that's what people do. They're like, oh, well, I'm sitting by a babbling brook while I meditate in my tofu or whatever it is, right? It's got to be this like unattainable, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then yours is just like, I'm just redecorating my house.
Yeah. But it gives, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm on Pinterest. I'm just living for this version of me. Yeah.
I think there's deep wisdom in that though, right? Like, I think that we've got to find those things that keep us sane and, like whether it's music or like you said, you've got a creative outlet or whatever it is. We've got to find those little things to keep us in the fight.
Yeah.
Malynda, thank you so much for your time. This was a wonderful conversation. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, same. We'll do it again for sure.
Yes. All right, friends, go to the show notes because you'll be able to find how to follow Malynda and all the things that she was talking about. And if you want to help support the Reason Reality Project, all of the work, the best way for you to do that is hit subscribe on all of the stuff. That's really the easiest way to do that. I hope that wherever you find yourself today, you're having the exact day you need. And don't forget, you might be the only voice of reason someone hears today. So don't be afraid to use it. All right, friends, until next time.
Bye.